What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon coverage video, and today we're covering the most recent trailer that came out. It was like a couple weeks, or technically this one was actually out a couple of weeks ago, but it was in Japanese and we only had the English one come out like a week ago, so that's what I'm covering today, because it's my final one left, and then we're back onto the actual proper news that's live, which is pretty cool. So this is like a story trailer basically. It goes over, or gives us some hints at least of what the story for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon might be. So jumping straight in, it actually starts off with a little backstory from Kukui, telling us that a long time ago, Alola was actually cloaked in darkness. Who would have guessed? But apparently, Alola's people and Pokemon blasted all that darkness away. Now, we can assume that has something to do with Solgaleo and Lunala, because they are obviously very representative of the region, so maybe there was some form of darkness, maybe it was just an eclipse, and then Solgaleo and Lunala helped get rid of it, or just appeared when it was over. We don't really want to trust history nowadays, or any time at all, so that's what that is. But then we also have Burnett telling us that it's extremely rare, but sometimes a hole opens in the sky, which is very reminiscent of what she told us in Sun and Moon. Basically the same thing, so nothing new there. But then we get Phyco and the Ultra Recon Squad telling us that Necrozma, the one that wields light to its will, would steal all of Alola's light. So Necrozma seems to be almost a proper evil Pokemon Ultra Beast, whatever you want to refer to it as, because it's being described as it being, it wields light to its will, but it would steal all of Alola's light just because it wants to. I think there was a recent interview where at least the director or the producer of the games was asked, is Necrozma actually evil? Is it like a pure evil Pokemon? And they said that actually it's up for debate, up for discussion, depending on which side of the story you go to. So maybe during the storyline we'll find out that, oh, actually Necrozma isn't just stealing because it wants to, maybe it's stealing because it needs light to survive, or something like that. We might find out eventually. Stealing to balance out Ultra space so it doesn't collapse. Who knows exactly? Hopefully we'll find out as part of the story, just to see like a two-sided coin for the Necrozma rather than just pure evil, although pure evil would still be pretty cool in my opinion. So moving on from there, we actually then see a little clip of what would be the sort of the culmination of the story itself, you would assume, where you go to the Ultra of the Sun or Ultra of the Moon, and I mean, you get Lunala from Cosmog, or Cosmog at that point, or Solgaleo of course, and you would assume that that's what would happen. However, well, that's what happened in Sun and Moon at least. However, you see here, we have an Ultra Wormhole opening with Necrozma bursting through, and as soon as it bursts through, it immediately starts sucking light from its surroundings. You can see that darkness just creeping in around there. The next shot we have is of Lunala itself with Lily behind it, so we can assume this is just after Lunala has been awakened, we'll say, or evolved, which is the proper term. And we can assume that either Necrozma is then attracted to Lunala because Lunala is a light Pokemon, or similar, it produces light, so maybe Necrozma can absorb it to get even more powerful, something like that, or maybe it's the fact that it just sensed Lunala was around. Maybe it's been sucking light away from Alola for a while now, and then it senses that Lunala's appeared and it needs to challenge it to a fight to stop it from stopping Necrozma itself. That's one idea there, that's one possibility. We can assume that's how the story is gonna sort of pan out there. The next sort of clip we get is a battle of sorts between what we can assume is Lunala and Necrozma itself. I'm assuming if it's Solgaleo, you get like a reddy orange light rather than a blue, but of course you can see the cheap graphics here because they would not be able to construct a proper fight with Solgaleo or Lunala and Necrozma in the air flying around on the 3DS. Not gonna happen. So we just get some wispy black from Necrozma and some obviously powerful light beam for Solgaleo and Lunala, bashing around in the sky, having a fight, and eventually crashing down onto the ground. So then the actual next clip we get straight away is of other Ultra Beasts. Now we see UB Burst and UB Assembly run through, as well as Xurkitree and Guzzlord appearing, on the ground. So the first thing I want to mention is, if you look at the top two screenshots of Burst and Assembly, we know these are going to be version exclusive Ultra Beasts. And you can also see the background is fairly similar between the two. You have this high cliff and then trees along the top of it on both sides, and that is of Melee Island. You see a very similar clip to this with Sun and Moon, where you have Buzzwole and Pheromosa coming down onto the top of Melee to battle against Hala. So I propose that basically the same thing happens in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, except it's Burst and Assembly rather than Buzzwole and Pheromosa, just to mix it up a bit, so you've got some new Ultra Beasts in the storyline as opposed to just the same ones again. Because if you remember, the only ones that actually appeared in the storyline were of course Nihilego, and then Buzzwole and Pheromosa, and that was it. You saw them come down to fight Hala, but you didn't actually see any more Ultra Beasts. You saw some Ultra Wormholes open, but that was it. You didn't see any more Ultra Beasts come through and fight against the Kahunas. Whereas it seems here, all 4 of these are new to the story, basically. So Burst and Assembly on Melee. If we have a look here at Circuitry, you see the rocks behind it, which links would suggest to me it appears on Akala Island, because why not? You know, if we think about where the sort of the Guardians section, Guardians Cave, the Guardian, whatever you want to refer to it, is on Akala. There is a rocky side there, cliff, so that wouldn't fit that exactly. And similarly, of course, Guzzlord jumping down in front of, I've completely forgotten his name, but I know who he is. It's Kahuna, or he was the Kahuna. Who knows? Actually, he is the Kahuna. I'm just completely forgetting at this point. He obviously is at the Guardian area for Tapu Bulu, so Guzzlord jumps down in front of that, so it would make sense that all of these are taking place on islands near the Guardians area. We don't see one for Pony Island, because of course that's the island we assume we're on while this cutscene takes place, because it's probably the one where all of them open, or it could be the fact that this takes place when we're in the 8th Foundation, in which case we haven't actually been to Pony Island yet, you'd assume, so what's the point in showing us it if we're not going to actually understand it? That's one idea at least. So we get some Ultra Beasts flying down from the sky, and the next thing we go straight back to the Ultra of the Sun or Ultra of the Moon, and you can see Lily reaching forward to what looks to be Necrozma with some light coming off it. Now, what I propose here is from that clip beforehand where you have the 2 of them fighting in the air and then crashing down onto the ground, when they crash down, what actually happens is Necrozma absorbs Solgaleo or Lunala to give us, of course, Duskmane Necrozma or Dawnwings Lunala, because of course that's going to happen in the story at some point. And we assume it's some sort of absorption to make Necrozma more powerful, because the next shot we have then is of Duskmane Necrozma, roaring out, and you can see this emanating dark swirl around it, which looks to be absorbing the area. So what looks to happen is Necrozma feels the presence of Lunala or Solgaleo, comes, battles it, absorbs it to increase its own power, because of course it's nullifying the light itself, and it's being able to absorb the light that Solgaleo or Lunala produces to then amplify its own power to absorb more light anyway. So that seems to be what's happening there. And we also have one other shot here, which you can see Duskmane Solgaleo or Duskmane Necrozma in the centre there in some form of dome of light, and we don't know where this is. This looks, though, from its area picture to be of the Ultra Megalopolis, which is the area where Necrozma has stolen all the light, where the Ultra Recon Squad sort of appear. So the question is, why are they there? We don't know, of course. So it seems like, we'll see a couple of other clips of this, but you can see the player character just walking up those stairs there. It seems like Duskmane Necrozma or Solgaleo is absorbing something, who knows exactly, but that looks to be the idea. Moving on then, the next set of screenshots we see are probably around the same time in terms of storyline, but you see Hala looking up in the sky and you have 2 lights flying about. We have one bluish and one pinkish. Now we can assume that these are 2 of the Guardians, so blue possibly being Tapu Fini and pink possibly being Tapu Lele. Now I believe there was a similar sort of scene in Sun and Moon where we saw some Guardians flying about in the sky. I can't remember exactly when though, so it might be at this point. So we see the Guardians flying out after they beat the Ultra Beasts, or maybe before. I think it's probably the same sort of scene as in Sun and Moon, where I think it's when the Ultra Worms open, they fly around the sky and Hala's like, oh, something's going on, or I don't know what he says, but something on his lines, going to help their own Kahunas, and obviously then he gets Tapu Koko to help him, so very similar there. Then the next clip we get is very similar to what we just looked at, where there was the Duskmane Necrozma in terms of in Ultra Megalopolis with it's some sort of thing over it. It's similarly based, it would seem, because you can see a player character standing on some form of platform, and around it obviously it's dark, and you can see a few different shapes that would look like Ultra Megalopolis, and there's an Ultra Wormhole in the background as well. Lily's also around here, and you can see these floating balls of light, it would seem. So my guess for this would be, after you beat Duskmane Necrozma or Dawnwings Necrozma, or catch them or whatever, that you can calm Necrozma or relent Necrozma, something like that, and basically Necrozma lets its light out again. And I would assume this light, or these balls of light, are the light from Necrozma that it absorbs, giving back to Ultra Megalopolis so it can actually have its own light again. Would be my assumption there, or just giving back the light that it's stolen in general. I don't know if Ultra Megalopolis would ever properly get its light back, because they'd have to sort of revamp the area so it would actually be light rather than dark, or there's light anyway, but lighter. And of course it would be a very small portion of the game. You might go back there briefly for the after game, but you wouldn't really be spending much time in a lit Ultra Megalopolis. It wouldn't be a a used area as much. It would just be a aesthetic change. So I don't know whether they do it. I feel like in the past they've left some sort of things like that out of the games. So who knows exactly if that will happen. But the next two shots we have here are of Xurkitree, and you can see it's stood. Now I don't know what this is. I feel like it's in Xurkitree's Ultra Dimension, because in the background you can see lightning bolts coming out of the sky. It seems like a stormy sky, so I feel like this is just inside its area, and possibly when you go to battle it, and it just gets struck by a bolt of lightning. So it's probably just in its Ultra Dimension. Just a quick shot of Xurkitree looking pretty badass, to be honest. Probably before a fight for catching it. Moving on then, we have a few shots of characters. First up we have Guzma, who is obviously at the Ultra of the Sun or the Moon, saying maybe when you bring out the best in others, it helps you find the best in yourself to her. Now this is probably after you beat the game, or after you beat the main story, I suppose, beat Necrozma or whatever, and you will come back to the main world, and he's obviously there saying, oh, well done. So it seems like Team Skull is going to follow the same trajectory as they did originally, maybe starting off as seeming like antagonists that are just going to be there to rough up a bit and have a few battles with, and then just turn around and really not be too much of an issue in the end. But then we see Gladion in what looks to be the middle of a foundation in terms of like that sort of core area, where he says, "Mother, if you disappear too." Now this is a big change from the original games, because Gladion was never really accepting his mother in the first games anyway. Whereas this here, you can see he's sort of not arguing, but sort of begging with her not to go or whatever. And the next two shots we have are of Lucamine saying, "Run away, that thing is a monster." Now we can assume this is in a very similar space, a very similar place. It could be inside that area in a foundation, although looking at the background just behind her, it almost seems like that's the Ultra of the Sun, Ultra of the Moon. You can see at the top left of that first screenshot, there seems to be some sort of pattern on like a paved floor, so it could be there as well. And she's also seems to be carried by something, because if you look just below her, there is some black and some white, and that looks a lot like a Team Skull uniform, i.e. Guzma. So one possibility is Guzma here at this point is being controlled by one of the Ultra Beasts, and is actually kidnapping Lucamine at this point. Because she's not like on the floor at all, she's being carried by something or someone, so we can assume that Guzma is either doing it out of spite, or is being controlled by an Ultra Beast, possibly Nihilego, because we have seen it control people in the past, to maybe take her into the wormhole. But what this really hints at is a redemption arc for Lucamine. Not so a redemption, but rather than her being the main antagonist of the games, we have other things to contend with, i.e. Necrozma, possibly the Ultra Recon Squad, and possibly others too. And this links in with the anime as well, because we have sort of gotten to the point in the anime where Lucamine is being introduced. Of course, she's Lily's mother, and Lily is travelling with Ash, so it would be a bit awkward, or a bit sort of tenuous to actually build that into a proper plotline as it is in the games. So this time, making Lucamine more of an unwilling, I suppose. She could still be pursuing Ultra Beasts, but she might not go just as far as to maybe steal Cosmog, because it looks like other people are after Cosmog, who knows. But she might still be obsessed with Ultra Beasts, because, well, the reason she's obsessed with Ultra Beasts in the first place is because if we go back to Gladion's line saying, "If you disappear too," we have to remember that Gladion and Lily's father, and of course Lucamine's husband, Mon, did disappear inside an Ultra Wormhole. So that might be, maybe she's not as mental as she was originally. Maybe she's not as crazy as that, and she's more just interested in trying to find and get Morn back, but not actually going to the point of, just disobeying everything apart from her Nihilegos. So she might be on some form of redemption arc there, which fits into the anime where she's not necessarily fully evil, I suppose. Well, she wasn't fully evil anyway, because of course she was given a bit of redemption at the end of the games, but you guys get what I mean in terms of the main plot. Then, last few things, we then see the main character seeing some sort of blinding rainbow light. Now, this is obviously at the Ultra of the Sun, Ultra of the Moon, because you can see the canyons in the background on Pony Island. So the light can be one of two things. It could be an Ultra Wormhole opening, which definitely could be one possibility, where it opens and lets the Necrozma through, or it could be Necrozma, well, actually, three things. One, the Ultra Wormhole opening. Two, it could be Cosmo-M transforming into Solgalea or Lunala. That's definitely a possibility. Or three, it could be Necrozma absorbing Solgalea or Lunala. So all of those different possibilities, they're all happening in the same place as well. So either one really, happens and makes sense. Then the last bit you can see is the main character walking up that steps to the platform in Ultra Megalopolis, and obviously you can see what would look to be here at least Ultra Duskmane, so not Necrozma, inside this ball of light. Now, what this is doing, I don't know. You can see the globe of light, and you can see there's light sort of beams surrounding it, so it wouldn't make sense for it to be stealing light at this point, because it's already got Ultra Megalopolis light. So maybe it's been defeated at this point, or maybe it's sort of just gestating and keeping the light to itself after it's absorbed some of Alola's light, or maybe there's something else going on entirely, and obviously we'll have to find out here, but that's would be my guess where the final battle takes place. Of course, we'll have to see how it all pans out though. And then the last section is just a bit of cinematic where we see Necrozma grabbing a sun and absorbing it, which seems to be the main sort of plot line for the game. So obviously there's going to be a few things flying around, like Cosmog being possibly wanting to be stolen by the Ultra Recon Squad so they can get themselves a Soul Glare or Lunar to help try and get their light back. We have Necrozma coming into Alola and stealing Alola's light as well. And obviously we have a few other threads in terms of 8th Foundation trying to get Ultra Wormholes open, maybe try and get some Nihil Egos or something else. So there's a few threads flying around Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and it should be interesting to see how it all pans out. But that's it for this trailer. We're now officially up to date, sort of. There's another few things to cover, but we'll get them. But that's going to be it for today, so I shall see you next time. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think about the storyline basically for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I think it's interesting with Necrozma stealing the light and all these different threads flying around. Let me know what you think. But that'll be it for me for today, so I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.